Yeah, it will because it's a WMV file. Okay, so on the left side of the screen are the problems that we have for homework on Friday night, and on the right side of the screen are the answers to each individual problem. We're going to start with question number 8, and we are going to look at how to do it. So, question number 8. 4 divided by 8 times the square root of 6. All right, so there's a square root, there's a radical in the denominator. How do you get rid of radical 6? You multiply it by itself. So that's what we're going to do right now. Multiply, and you can't just multiply the bottom. It's got to be both top and bottom. Multiply top and bottom by radical 6. The numerator becomes 4 radical 6. The denominator becomes 8 times radical 6 times radical 6. Well, there's a shortcut, but we're going to take the long way right now. That's 8 times the square root of 36, because radical 6 times radical 6 is radical 36. And the square root of 36 is what? It's just pure 6. So that's 4 radical 6 all over 8 times 6. Okay, so from here, we've got 4 square root of 6 all over 8 times 6 is 48. And these guys right here, this 4 and this 48, there's no addition subtraction separating any of the terms, and so you can just reduce those, and that reduces to 1 square root 6 over 12, because 4 goes into itself 1 time, and 4 goes into 48 12 times. So problem number 12 from the homework, let's take a look. You cannot have a radical in the denominator. We've got 4 square root 3. So how do you get rid of that square root 3? Yep, there's no addition subtraction going on in this problem. So just multiply top and bottom by the radical that you want to get rid of in the bottom. In this particular case, we want to get rid of square root 3 because you're not allowed to have a radical in the denominator. So multiply top and bottom by radical 3. Okay. Whenever you multiply two radicals, you multiply their numbers underneath. So the top is 2 square root of 6 over 4 square root of 9. That's 2 square root of 6 over 4 times the square root of 9 is 3. This becomes 2 square root of 6 over 12. There is no addition subtraction going on once again. You can just reduce these two terms, and you get the square root of 6 over 6. All right, 15, more difficult problem, pretty much one of the more difficult problems that you're going to see on your test. The bottom, the denominator, doesn't just have a radical by itself. It has a binomial, 2 terms, separated by addition. Now, you can't just multiply by radical 5 in this case. Here's the trick. When you see something that looks like this, you have to multiply by what's called the conjugate. The conjugate. It's the same thing as the denominator. The sign in between is just changed. And there's no other way to do this besides just multiplying them. 1 times 3 minus the square root of 5. The numerator is just 3 minus the square root of 5. The denominator. Now, this is the difference of 2 perfect squares. So you could use the quick strategy that we talked about on Friday, but a lot of people didn't seem to understand that. So let's just go the most traditional way for solving this problem, and that's by foiling. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times minus radical 5 is negative 3 radical 5. Hold on a minute, I just got to extend that. Positive radical 5 times 3 is plus. Hold on, let's fix that. Is plus 3 square root 5. And finally, positive radical 5 times negative radical 5 is negative square root of 25. All right. So let's save some time. Let's save some time, and instead of rewriting all of our work, let's try and simplify the bottom with just what's written down. Negative 3 radical 5 plus 3 radical 5. These two just negate each other. They cancel one another out. The square root of 25 is 5. So here's what we have. The top, nothing went down. The bottom, 9 minus 5 is just 4. And that's it. Okay, last problem of the homework. Problem number 28. You have two binomials, one on the top and one on the bottom. You have to simplify this. So we somehow need to get the radical 7, out of the denominator. There's only one way to do this. Yes, you have to multiply by what's called the conjugate. The conjugate being exactly what's in the bottom, but the sign changed in the middle. Okay, so we're going to put this in parentheses and put this in parentheses, and this in parentheses and this in parentheses. And I do this to remind myself that I have to be foiling now. All right, so here we go. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times positive radical 7 is plus 6 radical 7. This is going to be negative radical 7 times 4 is negative 4 radical 7. And finally, negative radical 7 times positive radical 7 is negative the square root of 49. All over. Now let's do the bottom. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times positive radical 7 is plus 4 radical 7. Negative radical 7 times 4 is, whoops, negative 4 radical 7. And negative radical 7 times 7 is negative square root of 49. And I messed up, so just excuse me for a minute. This is going to be 7. All right, so here we go. Now we're just reducing. Let's see if we can just reduce without rewriting things and wasting too much time. This is 7, and this is 7. These two items in the bottom, this and this cancel each other off because they're exactly the opposites. And 16 minus 7 is 9. So the bottom is 9. Now let's take care of the top. 24 minus 7 is 17. And 6 radical 7 minus 4 radical 7 is 2 radical 7. And we're done, because nothing goes into 2, 17, and 9 have nothing in common. So that's the problem, the answer in its most simplest form.